Hello, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about language barrier. Literally, like something in front of you that stops you from actually speaking. What happens to our brain? What happens to us when we are in contact with English and suddenly no words come out? Why does it happen? I'm going to talk to you about my experience recently traveling to Argentina and Uruguay. I don't know if you know this, I have mentioned it before, I don't speak any Spanish. Now some of you will say, whatever, you're Brazilian, Portuguese is so similar to Spanish. It's actually not to me. You know, they are very distinct languages. Of course, it's similar in some things, yeah it is, of course, but it's a different language, and Spanish to me personally is so hard. Why is it hard? I find the accent very difficult. I feel that my voice changes a lot. My voice changes a lot when I try to speak Spanish. And yes, my voice in Portuguese is different to my voice in English, but I feel like my voice in Spanish changes completely, like I don't sound like myself. So what happens? I feel totally embarrassed to speak Spanish. So recently we went to Argentina and Uruguay, and I had been, now listen to this, so important, I had been to Chile 2 years ago. So I'm telling you a story, right? This finished. I went there, I'm back, this was 2 years ago, so I say I had been to Chile, and at the time I went to Chile, I'm continuing with my sentence for you to see where I'm going, I couldn't speak any Spanish at all, and I didn't prepare for this. So when I went there, it was a terrible experience in terms of communication, because I just spoke English to people when I was there. Because talking to them in Portuguese feels offensive because it's not Spanish. Portuguese is Portuguese, Spanish is Spanish. They're both different languages. So I felt like, okay, if I speak to people in English, it's better because then it's a whole different language. It's not like I'm using Portuguese because it's similar to Spanish. Like they have to understand me because it's similar. I don't want them to feel like that in their own country. So it was a terrible experience in terms of speaking. This time I thought to myself, I'm gonna do it differently. I am going to prepare for this trip. However, I failed miserably as a student. And what did I do? I googled, went on YouTube and I researched for native Spanish teachers because to me the accent is so important, which is why when I talk to you, like I know that my accent is clear, that I speak in a clear way, and that you will, if you learn from me, you will learn some things from British English that are quite real, you know. So I wanted to learn also from someone who was going to have the real accent to teach me. So I go there and I'm looking for teachers, and I found a couple of teachers that I thought, all right, but I didn't find anybody that does what I do here, just like talking about life in Spanish. I was disappointed about that, guys. If you know somebody, please leave a comment, because that's what I feel is nice, it's entertaining, it's cool, you know. Anyway, I found a couple of teachers and I found some sentences that they said were very useful when you travel. So I wrote them down and I practiced a little bit, but not enough. Being totally honest here, I didn't do it enough. And that's what I always say to you about English. It needs to be every day. It needs to be a priority. Traveled this time and realized one thing. Nobody said hasta luego. Nobody. I was expecting to use this because according to my research, they don't really use adios. They don't really, please don't mind my accent because what is shit, isn't it? But anyway, they don't use it. So I'm like, okay, I was trying to get hasta luego from people and it didn't come. It just didn't happen. So the first thing I want to say to you about language barrier is you will study, you will research, but if you're not studying with like a method that it's like this, like you are listening, properly just listening to English, when you travel or when you move abroad, you will realize that whatever you studied is not 100% true. Because when you are in a situation that you are really listening to people, they use different things. So I would say always prepare. Always prepare. But when you're there, actually listen and pick up on the differences. Because we are in South America, and I believe this is a huge like South American thing, they just said ciao. And I was like, so here I was studying and they just say ciao. I'm like, please, can you say hasta luego? Please, I'm begging you now. And no, they didn't. Tell me if you are from Argentina or Uruguay or Chile or whatever, please leave a comment and please let me know if I'm wrong. But you guys just say ciao, right? And I was like, why? You know, I wanted to use my Spanish. It didn't happen. Second thing I want to say about language barrier. I was extremely embarrassed when I was traveling because I was there with my husband, my kids, my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, and my husband's uncle and aunt. So there was a lot of people there. And I didn't want to speak Spanish in front of people because I know I don't speak Spanish, you know. So I was so embarrassed, I didn't want to talk. So I practically just didn't. I just didn't talk. I was just like, zip. And that probably happens to you as well with English, doesn't it? When there is people around, you're just like, not gonna talk. So the like 3 sentences I said throughout the whole trip, I said it when I was alone, talking to the waiter at the restaurant or at the hotel when there was nobody around. This is because it's new in your life, right? So English is not something you are comfortable with. Spanish is not something I'm comfortable with. So this happens. This is acceptable. It should be a phase. Shouldn't be something that you're going through forever. Now, number 3, and the last point I want to make, accent. Because you're not used to listening to yourself in English, and I'm not used to listening to myself in Spanish, whenever I said something, it sounded really silly. Like I just sounded silly. For example, I wanted to ask about the toilet for my daughter, so I said to the waiter, I said, ¿Dónde está el baño? Yes, guys, it's not good, is it? I know. And when I said it, like, ¿Dónde está el baño? Like, I sound silly, don't I? I just sound stupid. Maybe I don't sound so silly to you, but I sound very silly to myself. That's what happens in English. You say something because it's new to you. Your accent sounds funny because you're trying to speak like them. Like I was trying to have a good accent. You know, I was trying to, say it nicely, but it sounds funny. What do I want to say here? It's better for you to feel that you sound silly, but you're trying to talk like them in English, than if you just say to yourself, I'll just talk with a Brazilian accent because then I feel safe. It's silly to do that. It's worse to do that because then you're never actually working on your accent. So even if it means that you have to go somewhere and talk in English alone without anybody around, then do it. And the language barrier will slowly kind of remove itself. But this is time and practice, isn't it? It's a good combo of time and practice, I feel. And my goal for myself is that next time I travel to a Spanish-speaking country, I want to be doing better and I want to just accept, the aspects of the language and to really try and talk properly as opposed to try and hide myself because I'm embarrassed to say it like they do. Okay, think about this. I hope this video has helped you to open your mind a little bit and to relax about language barrier, because it's real, it's there, and it will get removed. If you like this video, like the video, share with your friends, subscribe for more, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.